have made even $1 with your drone, $1, the FAA requires a federal license. Not suggested, required. And most pilots flying commercially right now don't have it. This is FAA Part 107. And in the next 8 minutes, I'm going to show you exactly where the legal line sits between a recreational flyer and a commercial pilot. Why that line is blurry enough that people cross it by accident, and what happens when they do. Stay to the end. I'm going to tell you the fastest way to pass the test. So before 2016, there was no enforceable commercial drone law in the United States. Companies were flying commercially in a gray zone. The FAA had guidelines, not rules. Then drones went from military hardware to something you could buy at Target. And the FAA moved fast. Part 107 is a set of regulations inside Title 14 of the Code of Federal Regulations. So Category 1 is recreational. You're flying for fun. No compensation, no business benefit, no professional purpose. You're covered under the FAA's recreational rules. Not Part 107. You still need to register your drone if it's over 0.55 pounds, which is 250 grams. You need to follow community-based safety guidelines and fly within FAA recreational rules, but you do not need a Part 107 certificate for this. Category 2 is everything else. The FAA defines commercial operation as any flight that is not purely recreational. That's a broader definition than most people expect. You don't need to invoice anyone. You don't need a business license. You don't even need to receive cash. The standard is whether your flight serves any business purpose, directly or indirectly. Here is where recreational and commercial diverge in real situations because the activity can look identical from the ground. Scenario 1. 2 people are flying over the same beach at sunset. Pilot 1 is filming for personal enjoyment, posted as a personal memory, no monetization, not building a portfolio. That's recreational. Pilot 2 is filming the same shot for their travel blog that runs AdSense. That flight is commercial. The FAA has confirmed YouTube and blog ad revenue triggers Part 107 and multiple enforcement actions. Scenario B. 2 pilots are at a wedding. Pilot 1 was invited as a guest and flies their drone to capture a personal memory. No one paid them, no one asked them, and they're not going to use that footage professionally. So that's totally recreational. Pilot 2 was asked by the couple to capture footage. It doesn't matter if they charged a fee or did it as a favor. The moment someone asks you to fly and you do it in service of their event, that's a professional capacity. Commercial requires Part 107. Scenario C. A real estate agent flies their own drone to photograph a property they're listing. No one hired a drone company, no separate line item on the invoice, doesn't matter. They are directly profiting and benefiting their business from that flight. Commercial, full stop. The rule of thumb, if a flight helps you make money, attract clients, or build a business, even passively, it's commercial. And here's the one that genuinely surprises people. Barter even counts. If it's a free dinner, a trade, a favor in return, if anything of value changes hands in exchange for your drone footage, that is compensation under the FAA's definition. The threshold is not $600, not $1, it is 0. Getting the certificate means passing a 60-question multiple choice knowledge test at an FAA-approved testing center. You get 2 hours. The passing score is 70%, which means you can miss 17 questions and still pass. The test covers airspace classification, weather interpretation, drone performance, emergency procedures, and FAA regulations. Once you pass, you apply through IACRA, the FAA's online system, and your certificate is valid for 24 months before you need a recurrent knowledge test. A recreational pilot has none of these requirements, but also has none of these operational permissions, and that's a real trade-off most people don't think about. Under Part 107, you must fly below 400 feet AGL, above ground level, in uncontrolled airspace. You must maintain visual line of sight at all times. You cannot fly over people not involved in the operation, over moving vehicles, or at night without specific waivers. In controlled airspace, class B, C, D, or surface E near airports, you need LAANC authorization before every single flight, not after. Recreational pilots have some of the same altitude and airspace restrictions, but they cannot legally fly for any commercial purpose, even if they follow every single operational rule. The certificate isn't just paperwork, it's the gate to the commercial category entirely. And Part 107 has a waiver system that recreational pilots don't have access to at all. Night operations, waivable. Flying over people, there's a category-based framework for that. Beyond visual line of sight for certain proof operations, waivable. The certificate unlocks a permission structure that recreational flying never touches. It is almost never an FAA agent standing in a field watching you fly. The 3 real enforcement triggers are: 1. Public complaints. Someone sees your drone, looks up the FAA registration number on the aircraft, cross-references it with whether you hold a Part 107 certificate, and files a complaint. The FAA is required to investigate every complaint. 2. Social media. The FAA has an enforcement division that actively monitors public posts. If you're posting commercial drone footage, real estate, events, sponsored content under your real name without a Part 107 certificate, you are findable. This is not theoretical. Pilots have been fined specifically because of Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok content. 3. Airspace violations. Flying in controlled airspace without LAANC authorization generates an automatic notification to the FAA, particularly near airports with radar coverage. That notification gets tied directly to your FAA registration number. So civil penalties start at warning letters and scale up to $27,500 per incident for unintentional violations. If the FAA can demonstrate you knew the rules and flew commercially anyways, intentional violation, that number jumps to $250,000 with potential criminal referral. Documented enforcement actions against unlicensed commercial pilots have resulted in fines ranging from $1,100 to over $18,000. Data from Pilot Institute confirmed at least 8 pilots had certificates suspended or revoked in 2025 alone. Enforcement has been accelerating every single year since 2017. Ignorance is not a defense. The FAA's position is that if you're operating commercially, you are responsible for knowing the rules that govern commercial operation. Recreational flying is legal, accessible, and has real freedom, as long as it stays purely recreational. The moment a business purpose enters the picture, even passively, even indirectly, even through barter, Part 107 applies. The FAA doesn't grade on a curve for intent. The certificate itself is not the hard part. The test has a reputation for being intimidating because most study materials are written by lawyers or haven't been updated in years. I'm a Part 107 certified pilot and I've trained other pilots to pass it. In the next video, I'm going to show you exactly what topics actually show up on the test, which ones don't, and the study method that cuts your prep time down significantly. All the fines, the social media monitoring, the enforcement actions, completely avoidable with one afternoon of prep.